Hello, 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 and welcome to Nursing News You Can Use live at 5. I'm Tina Baxter, your host. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm excited for our time together. This is Wednesday, May the 21st, 2025. We're coming up to our Memorial Day weekend and all these different things that are going to happen. And so excited to be here. And I have our affirmation for today. Now, this affirmation may be a little bit longer than normal, but I wanted to share this one to you because I found this so good and perfect for the season that I am in life. And it says, "You are a badass. Get nice and clear on the kind of life you desire to live. Figure out what you need to be making to manifest this reality and set about matching your frequency to your desired income. If you're nowhere near where you want to be, keep pushing yourself to raise your prices or seek higher paying jobs. Surround yourself with higher frequency experiences and people. Beef up your education and know how. Make vision boards of what you want your life to look like. Again, raising your frequency is like developing a muscle. Strengthening it is a process. And that is for today's affirmation from the You Are a Badass calendar by Jen Sincero. I appreciate the affirmation for today. All right, we have a lot of news to cover to get into for today. I'm excited about the news. We're going to follow up with a story that we've been watching. This is for Colonial Heights. There's another update on Colonial Heights. Those of you who've been following, again, this is the nursing home where 18 employees were arrested, charged with crimes. Here's a follow up to this. This is coming from not sure exactly. Hold on one. WWBT. There we go. Remaining charges against Colonial Heights nursing home staff dropped. Potentially more victims. This is coming out of Colonial Heights, Virginia. The remaining charges against staff at Colonial Heights Rehabilitation and Nursing Center will not proceed in court. The city's Commonwealth's attorney, Greg Collins, confirms his office decided to null prosecute, I'm not sure if I spelled that right, or prosecute the current charges, meaning that they were dropped but could be brought back. He officially filed that order on Tuesday, May 20th, and he tells 12 on your side that while investigators gathered evidence, they learned of more potential charges and substantially more victims against a defendant. This comes after 18 months after 18 employees were charged following an investigation of elder abuse at the center. So apparently there was a case where a lady, I think if I remember correctly, developed pressure ulcers or something like that, and she ended up going to the hospital, ended up dying, and they came in and they arrested everybody from the administrator on down. And part of it was falsification of records and things like that that got the people criminally charged. Okay, so here, yeah, it says that one woman, yeah, she is no longer with us because of the care. This is what the article says. So here it says, if charges are dropped for practical reasons, say the unavailability of a witness or the inability to pick a trial date soon enough to try the accused, then those are charges that will be brought back. Sometimes, however, charges are dropped because there's a greater interest. So that's from 12 on your side legal analyst Steve Benjamin. Okay, so maybe what they're saying is that maybe that they're targeting one particular person and they're trying to get the other people maybe to roll on them. It's kind of what I'm thinking in vernacular terms, right? So, okay, so it goes on, it says, Benjamin says charges could be dropped if there's a federal interest in a case, which could apply to the nursing center's situation. I understand that references were made in one of the search warrants to the possibility of medical services having been billed that weren't rendered. Aha, right there. That would bring the federal charges because that would involve the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare. And if you're billing Medicare and Medicaid for services and you do not render, that is fraud, and that could be an issue. And here it goes on, it says, and in fact, Medicaid or Medicare were billed for medical services that were provided, then that can make just what I just said, a medical fraud or wire fraud that the feds would be interested in. So that may mean that the case is going to be bigger than what originally we thought, potentially. The likely possibility right now is that the Commonwealth's attorney is taking time now to be extra deliberate with the case, as it seems to be bigger than initially thought. That's what I just said. I trust me, I did not read this before I read this with you. That's exactly what I just said. Whew, okay. We're going to keep an eye on this story. It said it could make more sense to wait on charging people so prosecutors can build the strongest case possible. A spokesperson for Colonial Heights released the following statement. Colonial Heights is pleased with the prosecutor's reported decision not to proceed with the pending charges against current or former staff at this time. So that means some of them may be still working there. We look forward to each and every employee being able to focus exclusively on resident care and needs. Many of these nurses have tremendous dedication, skill, and knowledge that is essential for quality care within our community. The center is also involved in other cases right now, which are not impacted by the move to no prosecute charges from the December arrest. One involves a different doctor from a separate incident, and the others are wrongful death civil lawsuits. So there's a civil case that's pending, and then we also covered the case with the doctor, right? So we talked about that earlier. But there's more to what's going on. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh. This is not a funny thing. But I just find this incredible. There's more to what's going on at Colonial Heights, because then this story came up. This is from the News, 6 News, Richmond, CBS News, Richmond. Colonial Heights nursing home fined $1,300 per day amid new violations of care standards. Colonial Heights Rehabilitation and Nursing Center faces new enforcement actions from health regulators after an updated inspection resulted in additional citations involving care and safety issues. Now, this was just posted yesterday, just to let you know, clarify some of the timeline. So it's just posted yesterday. So in March, inspectors with the Virginia Department of Health paid another visit to the nursing home to follow up on previous inspection from December and January. That resulted in 340 pages of violation findings, which revealed excessively low staffing at the facility, inadequate wound care, and medication errors. In a letter announcing the results of the follow-up inspection, VDH said it expected the nursing home to come back into regulatory compliance, like the facility claimed it had done, but the agency's revisit discovered otherwise. At the time of the March inspection, the number of residents living at the facility was 139, a decline from the 186 residents recorded 3 months prior, when Colonial Heights Police charged more than a dozen employees with crimes in connection to elder abuse investigation. During the inspection, health officials said 5 complaints were investigated, and all of them were substantiated. Here are some of the findings. So, gosh, first of all, my heart goes out to the residents of Colonial Heights, but also to the staff, because can you imagine working in a facility with this type of national scrutiny on you? You got the feds coming in, you've got the state coming in, you've got police raiding. It would be hard to work there. And faced with this type of pressure. But let's go on. So here's what they found. Inspectors said the nursing home failed to report an allegation of abuse in a timely manner after a resident and a nurse aide got into an argument, and the staff member allegedly pushed the resident so hard he fell off the bed. The resident told inspectors he felt helpless and cried about the incident the next day. Another staff member who witnessed the resident crying said they reported the incident to the administrator, but said no one has done anything about it. The administrator told inspectors she felt at first there was nothing to report. However, when the resident made a complaint to police, she notified law enforcement and state authorities. So this is the thing, okay? You can't make this up. You can't sweep things under the rug. And here you've got now the residents know, hey, police were here before. We just called police. You know what I'm saying? And so now it's like you're trying to cover sweet things under the rug. It's going to look bad. However you do it, you need, yeah. So again, prosecutors told them that no charges were filed. The inspection noted that the resident was not injured. For another resident, the facility was cited for failing to ensure he received physician-ordered treatments for worsening pressure ulcers. And again, this is the same problems that they were cited for before. The patient, who had 6 pressure ulcers on his body, told inspectors he preferred that 2 nurses do his treatments due to how many wounds he had, but claimed they would refuse to get assistance. The resident allegedly nursing staff would argue with each other to avoid changing his wounds dressing. So now they're like, who's going to do it? Because he's that, and it's probably is a lot. And I'm like, why does he have 6 wounds on his body in the first place? You know, that's a lot. Says, but staff, including the medical director, reported the resident refused care on multiple occasions. One staff member reported that the doctor wanted to send the resident to a hospital because of worsening conditions of the wounds. In another case, let's see if I can, it looks like sometimes these things get cut off. Okay. Yeah, I got cut off a little bit. So it says, in another case, a resident sustained 2 falls, yet inspectors said the facility failed to develop and implement resident-specific interventions. This is, again, the same thing I say all the time. If you're going to write the care plan, make it specific to the individual in front of you. The facility documented that it would provide the resident with a reacher. However, there was no reacher observed in the resident's room, and the resident reported he did not know what a reacher was. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, a reacher is actually, you know what? I have one. I actually have one behind me. How about that? So this is a reacher. It's a device where if you need to pick up something off the floor, you can pull the little handle and you don't have to reach down. I use it because it is so hard for me to pick up things that fall under my desk. I can't crawl under the desk and get back up very easily. It's a very tight space in my office. So I bought one with the express purpose of being able to pick up things very easily that fall in the cracks behind the desk, behind the bookcase and places like that. So I thought, one day I was at the drugstore and I said, you know what? Maybe I should just buy a reacher, because then I can just pick things up off the floor and underneath the desk without having to crawl underneath there and try to get back up. And it makes it so much easier for me to do that, because once I grab it, then I can just clean up and pick things up. So that was easier. So that's what a reacher is, for those of you who don't know. So they're saying that they were going to provide him with one, and resident didn't know what a reacher is. The report stated that staff also inaccurately documented that they made contact with the resident's family member to alert them of the falls. However, inspectors said they never made contact with the family member. I don't know how they would do that if they didn't document making those phone calls. Facility staff reported they attempted to, but the family member's phone line has been disconnected for months. And so when you can't get a hold of them via phone, there's sending them a letter in the mail. There's contacting another family member to see if they can get a hold of them if you can. There's finding them on sending an email if you have access to their email. I mean, there's different ways. So it sounds like they didn't try very hard, All right. So anyway, so the facility was also cited for failing to maintain one-on-one supervision of a resident with mental health impairments and a known history of making unwanted advances, giggity advances, as Charlotte Dover likes to say, on other residents. The man in question was documented to have put his hand up a resident's gown and touched another residents in places that he should not, and asked for, among other reported incidents. Facility staff said they've been trying to find a new placement for the individual, but it's been very difficult, and that's because of his behaviors, and I understand that would be difficult. And again, in those cases, there has to be a discussion about maintaining the safety for the other residents as well as the dignity for this particular person. So there are reasons for that. I understand that. I've faced that before in a nursing home. And in some cases, we opted to help them medically with those urges. But I was always in discussion with family, and we did the best we can to make sure that they maintain their privacy when they want their private time. Okay. So facility spokesperson Mindy Barnett told CBS 6 in a statement that the latest violations were lower level in terms of severity and did not place residents in immediate jeopardy or actual harm. Well, I don't know about that because I'm like, maybe not immediate jeopardy, but the guy's not getting his dressing changes done. And then the one that's like, essaying everybody, well, that to me sounds like it's a big deal. But anyway, we'll go on. VDH described the severity of the citations as a pattern deficiency that constitutes no actual harm with potential for more than a minimum harm that is not immediate jeopardy. So it's kind of like it's bad, but it's not to the place where we got to shut you down. Okay. So in each case, corrective action was taken and submitted to the Virginia Department of Health for its approval. Approval was given and the corrective actions were completed. Corrective action plans include resident referral for guardianship, various types of resident audits, education and re-education of staff, notifications to healthcare providers, residents being placed on one-to-one supervision, and the reporting of allegations to law enforcement. While Colonial Heights and many other skilled nursing facilities strive for perfection, people are human and do make mistakes, Barnett said. The importance that is that no harm occurred, corrective action was taken, and the dedicated staff of Colonial Heights continues to work both hard and completely to provide for the health, safety, and welfare of its residents in the face of intense scrutiny. So we'll see what's happening, and with Colonial Heights, we'll keep an eye on this story. We'll continue to kind of update you on that as we go along. And again, I'm not laughing at this. My heart goes out to the staff that are having to deal with this as well, because I can imagine the intense pressure that they have. But it's just to me, it's just it's a snowball effect for this facility. And I don't know about the owners that own the facility. I haven't really looked into that as of yet and recently. And it just makes me wonder, with all this intense scrutiny and your name in there, why haven't they tried to beef up stuff? I don't know. So anyway, that goes on. Let's go ahead and get to this one, as we're talking about nursing homes right now, because I thought that's kind of important. So here we go. This is from, I believe, McKnight's. Yeah, long-term care news. And it says, judge slaps bankrupt nursing homes with $15 million penalty in tragic staffing case. Two companies running nursing homes in Western Pennsylvania have been ordered to pay more than $15 million in restitution a year and half after their criminal conviction in a fraud case related to understaffing. And that's where I was like, whoa. A federal judge on Tuesday ordered Comprehensive Healthcare Management Services, the operator of Brighton Rehabilitation and Wellness Center, and the affiliated operator of Mount Lebanon Rehabilitation and Wellness Center to pay $12.6 million and $2.7 million in restitution, respectively. The nursing home had last month asked the court to override federal prosecutors' recommendations for millions in restitution, noting that the two facilities and their business backers are both in the bankruptcy process and that the government hadn't actually been victimized by inaccurate staff reporting. But U.S. District Court Judge Robert Colville appeared to disregard that argument and instead leaned on sentencing statements from family members of former residents of the facilities in meting out both probation and restitution. One witness reported a female resident who had been seriously injured from a violent attack by a male resident when no nursing home staff were present to prevent the attack or come to the victim's aid. These family members described a significant decline in staffing following acquisition of the nursing homes by the defendant companies and detailed how decreased staffing levels negatively impacted their relatives' care, treatment, health, well-being, and hygiene. Acting attorney, U.S. Attorney Troy Rivetti previously told the court that Brighton's alleged inability to pay should not constitute an absolute shield to its sentence. Without financial consequences to hold healthcare facilities and companies accountable, this type of fraud will continue. So during the 5-week trial in late 2023, prosecutors outlined a scheme that involved falsifying staffing information provided to the Pennsylvania Department of Health and the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. False certification includes employees adding the names of individuals who were not actually working, not providing direct patient care, or not in the building, prosecutors said. At other times, they proved supervisors changed staffing sheets to make it appear that a minimum staffing ratio was being met so that the company could avoid penalties or costly denials of new admissions. Judge Colville Tuesday described the defendant's actions as a tragic set of events that increased the risk of inadequate care for patients and eroded public trust in healthcare facilities that are expected to operate lawfully. The government also had charged 5 company and facility leaders for their roles in this scheme, but a jury found all 5 not guilty. The Brighton and Mount Lebanon businesses, however, were found guilty of 6 and 4 counts, respectively, for healthcare fraud and records falsification. So this is how these charges come about. And so this is important, as nurses, don't be putting stuff down. If you didn't do it, don't document it. Don't document for somebody else. Don't add your name if you weren't working that day, because they will find out. And it's very easy to pull those records and find out. So don't do that. Don't. All right. So we're going to get ready to talk about this upcoming strike, possibly a rally in Minnesota in just a moment. Let's take a brief break for one time. Nurses, are you burnt out, frustrated, looking for something new? Are you looking for more? Nurses, are you ready to feel the sun? You will dream big and expand your consciousness as an entrepreneur. Your nursing license is your key to freedom. Join the Nurse Shark Academy at the nursesharkacademy.biz today. All right, let's get to our next story. Minnesota Nurses Association holds rally amid negotiations with Essentia. This is from Northern News Now. Dozens of registered nurses, RNs, took to the steps of the Duluth City Hall to voice their frustrations about ongoing contract negotiations with Essentia. The deadline for the Minnesota Nurses Association and Essentia to strike a deal is June 30th, 2025. With more than 2,000 Twin Port nurses, Essentia says the current negotiations make up a significant portion of the RNs at the hospital. One of those nurses is Julie Flotten, who is a lung cancer navigator and RN for Essentia. While nurses within the hospital have been at the negotiating table since April, Flotten's bargaining unit has been negotiating with Essentia since July of last year. We've been at the table for a very long time, and you'll hear it tonight. We're asking for transparency. We've been non-contract workers for a long time. Flouten doesn't feel that Essentia has been responsive to the needs of her and her colleagues. Leaves of absence, a wage grid, confirmed work agreement, those things we're asking for, and Essentia is not budging on that. I want to know when, if I have a leave of absence, how long it can be to take care of my family. I want it in writing. And you know what? That ought to be in writing. I'm surprised it's not in the employee handbook. But anyway, Tuesday's rally comes as Essentia leaders are sounding the alarm over a lack of progress in negotiations with the MNA. Back in February, Essentia offered up 54 potential negotiating dates, but so far 2 sides have only met 6 times, with just 2 meetings left before the June 30th deadline. Essentia says they're open to more negotiations, adding they're open to new negotiation dates if the MNA agrees. Essentia is trying to focus on a contract that represents the great work our nurses do every single day, while also focusing on patients and sustainability of patient care, said Director of Nursing for Essentia, Beth Young. In 2022, the last time the contracts were negotiated, nurses picketed and went on a 3-day strike before eventually reaching a deal. Essentia released a statement saying, in part, the contract that was finalized in 2022 included historic pay raises for nurses. At Essentia, starting full-time pay for acute care RNs in the Twin Ports with a 2-year degree is $87,000. Overall average annual pay for RNs working at 0.8 FTE, which is 32 hours per week, is $100,000. That's not bad. They added, Essentia's focus hasn't wavered to reach a deal that rewards our nurses for the important work they do while preserving access to the highest quality patient-centered care close to home. Accenture's negotiating team also asked the M&A to agree to meet on consecutive days and successive weeks and well in advance of June 30th to give the parties the best opportunity to reach a timely settlement. That request was declined. Floughton said that this comes down to feeling valued and respected by her employer. We care so deeply about the work that we do. None of us want to leave that, and so I'm working for an organization that values me, both in wages and commitment to professional development and leaves and all the rest. And of course, I'm going to stay. Aspera St. Luke's is planning to meet with the M&A Wednesday for their third bargaining session. In a statement to Northern News, now the hospital says we're committed to a positive, fair, and transparent negotiation process. However, we are unable to fully bargain or come to an agreement because the M&A refuses to provide its full economic proposal despite our repeated requests. So we'll see what happens. We'll keep an eye on that bargaining situation. But if you're in Minnesota and you have anything that you want to share, please let us know. How's that going, and what is it we can do to help support just by shedding light. All right. Here's our next story. This is coming again from CBS 6 out of Richmond, and it says lawmakers respond to CBS investigation into nursing home finances. Yes, this is back to Colonial Heights. I almost missed this story. Two state lawmakers stand ready to take action as the CBS 6's investigative reporting on troubled nursing home in their district highlighted what they believe are gaps in Virginia's oversight system of care facilities. Somebody's got to step in and say, we're going to fix this, said Republican Senator Glenn Sturtevant. This is just the tip of the iceberg of what many of these facilities are doing and the lack of care that's being provided to our most vulnerable citizens, said Republican Delegate Mike Cherry. As Colonial Heights Rehabilitation and Nursing Center was put in at the center of criminal investigations connected to alleged inadequate care, CBS 6 took a deeper dive into its performance and financial history. According to federal data, the facility is a one-star, low-staff, for-profit nursing home operated by Medical Facilities of America, or the MFA. According to the State Health Department, MFA was acquired in 2021 by a company with a mailing address listed in New Jersey. CBS 6 obtained the facility's cost reports that were submitted to state and federal regulators, which show how the nursing home was spending Medicare and Medicaid dollars. What the reports revealed caused concern for Senator Sturtevant and Delegate Cherry. There's something financially there going on that doesn't look right, Sturtevant said. Experts who reviewed the reports pointed to highly unusual and extremely large rent payments to a related party, that is, another company under common ownership as provider. So, okay, let's break this down because we've done this before on this show. We've talked about this before. This has happened before. We've seen it in Indiana, where basically, and in other places, where for-profit entities, usually private equity firms, that own like a lot of land and real estate, will purchase the land that the nursing home sits on in the nursing home, create a separate company then that owns the land, and then lease the land back to the nursing home where the nursing home used to own land, and do the same thing with the hospitals. So now what they're doing is the nursing home is taking in the money that they get from Medicare and Medicaid and private insurers, and they're putting it into a big pot for administrative costs. And essentially they're just paying back the parent company that already owns them the money and taking care of the rent and for the land. So they become a tenant of their own company. And so this is how it works. And so this isn't something that's new. This is done by nursing homes and hospitals and private equity firms across the country. Okay. And if you want to really look into this, the Indy Star did a great piece on this. So go back and look at that from the Indy Star. But anyway, so this is how this stuff happens. And so it shows that records show that one entity owns both the nursing home operating company and a real estate company. I told you this, that leases the property back to the operator. According to the cost reports, the price of rent increased significantly from $2.6 million in 2022 to $6.1 million in 2024. So basically, let's just say you get $1 million, because math has to be easy for me right now. Or you get $1 million. And if your rent is 50% of that, right? So you're paying $500,000, let's say, for your rent. And so you're getting the $1 million from the government. You pay the 500,000 back in rent because you're paying yourself back. So now whatever you're getting, you're getting to take that percentage back, and then you only have $500,000 for salaries, for patient care, for upkeep of the building. And so you see, they're kind of ciphering off the chunk of the money and then letting the nursing home operate with whatever else they have left, right? So that's kind of how it works, if that makes sense. Okay. So, and that while analysis said the transaction likely generate profit for the parent company, it ultimately appears as an expense on the cost report, contributing what the provider claimed as an $89,000 overall financial loss that year. So then the nursing home gets to claim financial losses for tax purposes and all of that. And so now it looks like they're operating in the red, when in actuality, the parent company that owns them gets to keep the money. Okay? All right. So here's where we're going. So it says, when you see those kind of numbers coming through a facility like that and then realize they're ultimately paying themselves, it's almost a sense that they're cooking the books. That's what Sherry said. That's not what I said. That's what Sherry said. And then you compare that to where you see the money's going, and they claim that's being spent in rent, but that's a lot of money that is not going to hire more doctors, more nurses, paying the folks better, so they can get quality providers to work at this facility, sort of it said. So again, this isn't just Colonial Heights. This is something that's bigger. This is happening all over the country. Okay. So the spokesperson at Colonial Heights, Mindy Barrett, says that, rents are believed to be fair market value, and all government filings were submitted by qualified professionals who are not identified in any irregularities. But according to the Virginia Medicaid Agency's fair market value rates, if every resident in 2024 was a Medicaid member, the facility would receive about $1.8 million capital reimbursement. So in other words, they're getting almost $5 million more than they should, according to their records. So again, like I said, related party transactions are not unique to Colonial Heights because they do other things that they do. They will have their own physical therapy department that they own and that provide the services, but they're able to bill and then reap the benefit of that because it'll be a separate department, so that they become a vendor of the nursing home, and the nursing home pays the vendor, who pays the money back to it all goes back to the parent company. So you've got that. Then you have things like laundry service could be outsourced. So anything they can outsource, they can make their own company to do that and outsource it to themselves, which I find that really strange because as a practitioner, if I were to make a referral to myself, I'm in trouble. So how is it that they aren't in trouble? Anyway, those are just questions that I have. So it says recent research, including a report and guidance from a federal inspector general's office, has suggested that some nursing home owners and private investors do not properly disclose or adjust these costs, resulting in overstated expenses and underreported profits, which can typically appear in real estate transactions. Because of this concern, the legislative branch agency that advises Congress on Medicaid has recommended that states collect more data on related party transactions. Some states have already tried to crack down on those gaps by tightening financial reporting requirements. For example, New Jersey passed a law in 2020 that required facilities to report the ratio of revenue spent on direct patient care, and anything less than 90% has to be returned. Wow. That's a high number. As part of the requirements, facilities must also provide an in-depth analysis that proves the amounts being paid to related parties do not exceed what would have been paid to unrelated parties. In other words, you can't charge more as a person, as a parent company, for the services than you would pay an outside vendor to do that. That kind of makes sense. So it says that legislation was recently brought to my attention, and I think it certainly has some merit. I would love to explore that a little bit further and see if there's something that we can get accomplished here in Virginia. Virginia's Medicaid agency, Department of Medical Assistance Services, DMAS, is responsible for reviewing cost reports. Spokesperson Kedra Keith said all the agency's current authority related to facilities financial reporting is within the context of setting reimbursement rates, and it does not broadly oversee business practices. So if you want to hear more about this, head on over to CBS Investigative in Virginia for this. This is a great story, and we'll keep an eye on what's happening as we are just quickly running out of time. Okay, so we want to hit this next story. Let's go a little bit closer to home in Cincinnati. And nurses at Cincinnati's VA rally against anticipated job cuts that could impact thousands. So apparently, there are suggestions that the Department of Veteran Affairs plans to eliminate several jobs, including those in the VA, to reduce the government. The nurses said, "We are a free country because of our men and women that volunteer and join our military, and we should take care of them." The Cincinnati VA health system currently serves more than 42,000 veterans across the state, and already the shortage of providers is a problem. We do work some days when there isn't enough staff, and there should not be a VA hospital that's understaffed. They said we're going to undergo budget cuts. There have already been so many challenges that are hard for nurses. So just to let you know, it's not just in the private sector, but you've got the VA as well. So hopefully they'll get this worked out for our veterans. I just don't know how we can say we support our veterans and yet we want to undercut the VA services that they have after they've given so much to our country. All right, so let's see. I'm gonna get to this one. Um, yeah, I've got two big ones that I want to talk about. Let's get to this one first. I found this one from Medical Express. This is a story that came out of the University of Pennsylvania. Study sheds light on why for-profit hospitals have worse nursing and patient outcomes. I thought this was interesting. It says studies have shown that for-profit hospitals have higher rates of mortality and rehospitalizations, poor access for people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, and worse quality compared to not-for-profit hospitals. But research explaining these outcomes is lacking. University of Pennsylvania School of Nursing researchers, and this is why. Can I just stop here and just say, I wanted to share this story because I'm seeing where nurses are doing so much. Oh dear. Yeah, nurses are doing so much. And I think that's so important that the nurses do that. And so I just think it's wonderful that the nurses are just doing so much for us and sharing and shedding light on this. So nurses are doing the research. So anyway, University of Pennsylvania School of Nursing researchers hypothesize that for-profit hospitals invest less in nursing services, such as staffing and work environments, important factors considering that decades of research show that hospitals with better resourced nursing services have better outcomes for patients and nurses. Using data from 2021, including the survey of nurses, the analysis includes 113 adult acute care general hospitals in Illinois. Researchers find that for-profit facilities have statistically significant lower investment levels in nursing services, worse job outcomes for nurses, and poor outcomes in patient care quality and safety, despite there being no statistically significant differences in operating margins, hospital size, or technological capabilities. The findings were published in Medical Care. Patients in for-profit hospitals receive less nursing care. This is worse patient-to-nurse staffing ratios than patients in non-for-profit hospitals, said the first author, K.J. Muir, assistant professor in Penn's School of Nursing. Nurses working in for-profit hospitals had worse ratings of their work environment and gave their hospital poorer grades on patient safety and infection prevention than nurses in not-for-profits. So if you want to read more about this, head on over to the study. And in fact, I'm going to put the citation here in case you want it. And I'll put that in our show notes right here for you as a comment so you can get it. Because I think that's important. I wanted to share that with you. Okay. All right. Let's get to our next story. And then we'll take a really brief break. All right, this is one probably people have been talking about, but another hit for United Healthcare. This is from The Guardian. It says a Guardian investigation finds insured quietly paid facilities that help it gain Medicare enrollees and reduce hospitalizations. Whistleblowers allege harm to residents. This is from United Healthcare, their nursing home plan. United Health Group, the nation's largest healthcare conglomerate, has secretly paid nursing homes thousands in bonuses to help slash hospital transfers for ailing residents, part of a series of cost-cutting tactics that has saved the company millions, but at times risk residents' health, a Guardian investigation has found. Those secret bonuses have been paid out as part of United Health program that stations the company's own medical teams in nursing homes and pushes them to cut care expenses for residents covered by the insurance giant. So I do know that through Optum, they will send in nurse practitioners and physicians to oversee the care in nursing homes and provide that oversight that nursing homes need. So it's kind of like an outsourced expense. So, and they do that for their enrollees. So it says, in several cases identified by the Guardian, nursing home residents who need immediate hospital care under the program failed to receive it after interventions from United Health staffers. At least one lived with a permanent brain damage after following his delayed care, according to a confidential nursing home incident log, recordings, and photo evidence. No one is truly investigating when a patient suffers harm. Absolutely no one, said one current United Health nurse practitioner who recently filed a congressional complaint about the nursing home program. These incidents are hidden, downplayed, and minimized. The sense is, well, they're medically frail and no one lives forever. The Guardian's investigation is based on thousands of confidential corporate and patient records obtained through sources, public records requests, and court files, interviews with more than 20 current and former United Health and nursing home employees, and 2 whistleblower declarations submitted to Congress this month through the nonprofit legal group Whistleblower Aid. The documents and sources provide a never-before-seen window into the company's successful effort to insert itself into the day-to-day operations of nearly 2,000 nursing homes in small towns and urban commercial strips across the nation, an approach which has helped United Health secure a vast stream of federal dollars for Medicare Advantage plans that cover more than 55,000 long-term nursing home residents. United Health said the suggestion that its employees have prevented hospital transfers is verifiably false. It said its bonus payments to nursing homes help prevent unnecessary hospitalizations that are costly and dangerous to patients, and that its partnership with nursing homes improve health outcomes. Under Medicare Advantage, insurers collect lump sums for federal government to cover senior care, but the less insurers spend on care, the more they have for potential profit, an opportunity that United Health higher-ups has systematically sought to exploit when it comes to long-term nursing home residents. So this report came out, and bam, guess what? United Health stocks have taken another hit. So there's a graphic here that shows that patients in United Health plans and those who are in other plans, and they're showing that United Healthcare has been enrolling as many residents or nursing homes as any other Medicare Advantage plan. So you can see it's really higher. So I'd show it to you, but in the interest of time, I won't. Go to the Guardian and take a look at the story. To reduce residents' hospital visits, United Healthcare has offered nursing homes an array of financial sweeteners, that sounded more like they came from stockbrokers than medical professionals. Over the past 7 years, the company has shelled out premium dividend and shared savings payments that boosted nursing homes' bottom line. Through its quality and shared risk program, United Health offered an even bigger cut to nursing homes that drove down medical spending, but threatened to claw back money from those that didn't, according to former employees and internal corporate documents. One term that United Health executives obsessed over was admits per thousand, APK for short. It was a measure of the rate that nursing homes send their residents to the hospital. Under the premium dividend program, a low APK qualified a nursing home for the various bonus payments that insurers offered. A high APK meant the nursing home would receive nothing. APK drove everything, said one former National United Health executive who worked on the initiative with nursing homes in more than 24 states and spoke about the confidential contracts on the condition of anonymity. You gain profitability by denying care, and when profitability suffers for the shareholders, that's when people get crazy and do things that are not appropriate. The revelations come at a time of crisis for United Health, which became the subject of public outrage after December's unaliving of Brian Thompson, a top executive of the company, and the arrest of suspect named Luigi Mangione. This also reignited concerns of the healthcare giants' Medicare windfalls and denials of care to patients. But a full accounting of United Health's cost-cutting push inside nursing homes has not previously surfaced amid government and media investigations into the company's conduct. The secret bonuses were just one of many maneuvers United Health devised to track and cut expenses in its nursing home initiative. So they've actually pulled out some internal emails that were shared. So internal emails, for example, the United Health supervisors gave their teams budgets showing how many hospital admissions they had left to use up on nursing home patients. The company also monitored nursing homes that had smaller numbers of patients with do not resuscitate or DNRs and do not intubate orders in their files. Without such orders, patients are in line for certain life-saving treatments that may lead to costly hospital stays. 2 current and 3 former United Health nurse practitioners told The Guardian that United Health managers pressed nurse practitioners to persuade Medicare Advantage members to change their code status to DNR, even when the patients had clearly expressed a desire that all available treatments be used to keep them alive. They're pretending to make it look like it's in the best interest of the member, according to United Healthcare nurse practitioner said, but it's really not. In response to questions, United Health says its nursing home initiatives improves care for older residents by providing on-site nurse practitioners tailored care plans for chronic conditions and enhanced communication between staff, family members, and providers. So, yeah, that's happening more with United Healthcare. We'll continue to follow that story as well. All right, let me see if let me do one more story before I was going to go to a break, but we're running out of time, so I just want to hit this story before we end with our nurse making a difference. This is coming from NPR, and this National Public Radio, I take it for what you will. I always like to bring information to anyone who's listening. And nurses pay attention to this as well. Diseases are spreading. The CDC isn't warning the public like it was months ago. This just came out today. To accomplish its mission of increasing the health security of the U.S., the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention states that it conducts critical science and provides health information to protect the nation. But since President Trump's administration assumed power in January, many of the platforms the CDC used to communicate with the public have gone silent. And you know what? And now that I think about it, I don't get those alerts that I used to get from the CDC anymore. I used to get alerts that I would get, during the pandemic. I would get alerts about related numbers and all that stuff that I shared with you all. And I don't get any alerts from them anymore. It didn't occur to me to just now. Many of the CDC's newsletters have stopped being distributed, workers at the CDC say. Health alerts about disease outbreaks previously sent to health professionals subscribed to the CDC's Health Alert Network haven't been dispatched since March. See, I haven't seen that. I just thought about that. The agency's main social media channels have come under new ownership of the Department of Health and Human Services. Emails reviewed by NPR show, and most have gone more than a month without posting their own new content. Public health functions best when its experts are allowed to communicate the work that they do in real time, and that's not happening, said Kevin Griffiths, who served as the director of communications at the CDC until March. That could put people's lives at risk. Might have been helpful when we talk about measles, but okay. Health emergencies have not paused since January. Cases of measles, salmonella, listeria, and hepatitis A and C have spread throughout the country. More than 100 million Americans continue to suffer from chronic diseases like diabetes and breast cancer. The decline in the agency's communication could put people at risk, said four current and former CDC workers, 3 of whom NPR is allowing to remain anonymous because they're still employed by the CDC and believe they may be punished for speaking out. Oh, yeah, they probably will be. And find out who they are. We are functionally unable to operate communications, said one of the CDC's workers. We feel like our hands are tied behind our backs. Before Trump was inaugurated, the CDC managed most of its communication. HHS, the agency that oversees the CDC, and more than 20 divisions and agencies rarely reviewed the content in CDC social media posts or newsletters. That allowed the CDC to communicate quickly and often. The whole goal is to say, this is what we know, and here are the best recommendations for experts in the field, said Dr. Jody Guest, a professor and senior vice chair of the Department of Epidemiology at Emory University's Rollins School of Public Health. And this is the best advice about the way the general population should handle things in order to protect their health. The CDC's communication staff dispersed health messages weekly, monthly, and quarterly through a network of more than 150 newsletters about topics like arthritis, diabetes, and food safety. And my question is, why are those things targeted? Okay, let's just take out the whole vaccine and all that kind of stuff. You know what people learn about arthritis, diabetes, and food safety? And so now I get alerts on my news app on my phone, which I don't even know if half that stuff is accurate. Anyway, I'm not going. The CDC distributed those newsletters to tens of thousands of subscribers, CDC employees, including clinicians and laboratories that relied on the information to care for patients. Facts from those dispatches were often shared on social media. Information from the CDC's morbidity and mortality weekly report. That's the one I used to get as well. The agency's publication of public health information and recommendations was regularly posted across the CDC's main social platforms like Facebook and X, formerly Twitter. Scientists and other communication professionals at the CDC could also suggest other health facts to be posted on the agency's main platforms. Those sorts of posts included information on X about topics like how COVID-19 was spreading in 2020, posts on Facebook about how to prevent bacterial infections, and posts across platforms about how to get screened for chronic illnesses like cancers. The messages quickly reached a wide audience. More than 12 million people subscribed to the CDC's main Facebook, Instagram, X, and LinkedIn accounts. Social media is one of the main ways the CDC communicates plain language, life-saving messages to Americans, said one CDC employee. But now many of those messages have stopped being sent out. Changes to communication at the CDC began shortly after Trump was inaugurated in January, when HHS instructed the CDC and other health agencies to pause any sort of collaboration with people outside the agency. So at this point, we stopped pretty much all communications to CDC employee who works at the agency. The pause affected some of the CDC's most essential publications. The CDC's Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report, the agency's regularly published write-up of important new public health research and disease outbreak information, was not released for 2 weeks after Trump was inaugurated. No report was published on January 23rd, the first Friday after inauguration, or on January 30th, the second Friday. The unprecedented break in publication of the weekly reports concerned some subscribers. It stopped publishing at the height of the bird flu outbreak and at the beginning of the measles outbreak, said Guest, the epidemiology professor at Emory. And so it's really a time when we want to get that very consistent and very important scientifically sound information, and it was all shut down. So this is a very long story. I don't have time to read all of it for you, nor do I want to, but go over to NPR and actually read this, because as nurses, we should be concerned. The information that we're getting to help us to do our job may not readily be available to us. And so the questions become, why? And so I would say contact Secretary Kennedy. If you're worried about what's happening in your in public health in your neighborhood, contact Secretary Kennedy about this. All right, let's move on and get to our nurse making a difference, because I have 2 minutes left and I need to go. All right, our nurse making a difference happens to be Bianca Allen. She was highlighted on Daily Nurse, and I wanted to share this because it says, when the nurse becomes the patient, how Bianca Allen's near-death birth experience changed everything. I really like the story. I'm not going to read the story because I just don't have the time. But she was a labor and delivery nurse at Memorial Herman Katy Hospital, and she was always wanted to make sure that she had great birth plans and to support her patients. But the day that she became a patient, she had a life-threatening postpartum hemorrhage that really cost her life. And she credits the care that she received from her coworkers and the doctors that were there that supported her in her time in making her birth plan work as best as they could. And now that it's changed how she works as a nurse and how she wants to be there and understand what it's like to be the patient in the bed and to help alleviate their fears and to comfort the patients when they're there. So I wanted to share her story as well. Head on over to Daily Nurse to read the full story. I just don't have time to read it as I have to go in exactly 1 minute. So that ends all of our news for today. Let's get in a quick announcement, and then we're going to go. All right, so coming up, we have for next week If you're in Anderson and you're in our local area, join us for our Alignable event. I'm excited for this. We have our Alignable event at 12:30. We're going to meet at Jackrabbit's Coffee and have our bites in Business and Bites Network over Nibbles over at Jackrabbit Coffee. That's here in Anderson, 525 West 11th Street. So come on over and join us for that. Also, on that same day, that morning, we do have our TB instructor course. So if you are interested in becoming a TB instructor and you've had your TB basic certification for 6 months and you are a healthcare professional with a license, or you have a 4-year degree in a health-related field, you can sign up for that at BaxterProfessionalsHealthEducation.com. And also, we are trying to get a cohort together for our CNA training in June. So if you're interested in CNA training, head on over to Baxter Professional Services Health Education.com. Go ahead and get registered, sign up, call us for your application, and we'll be happy to get in touch with you. All right, that's it for now. I will see you next week and have a great rest of your day, and we'll be out with this. Ready to turn your nursing skills into a thriving business? At the Nurse Shark Academy, we give you expert strategies, real startup guidance, and the support to go from employee to empowered entrepreneur. Join us and build the nurse-owned business of your dreams. Start today and join us at the nursesharkacademy.biz. Don't forget, if you're watching us on YouTube, to subscribe to our channel and watch our other show, the Nurse Shark Academy Show, where we interview nurse business owners and leaders. And then join us each week before we go live for the Nursing News You Can Use show, as well as if you're watching us on Facebook or any of our other platforms, please give us a like and a comment. We appreciate that, and share our content and invite others to join us. Thank you. See you next week.